This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football, and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network. Every club, every day.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello, and welcome to the Daily English Premier League podcast.
This podcast is...
Oh, I am so sorry. For some reason, never mind. Welcome to the Daily English Premier League podcast. My name is Michał Czarniecki, based here in California, and I'm joined by Viktor from Chicago, Illinois, one of the biggest bases of Polish nationals living there, or Polish Americans, whatever. Thank you, Viktor, for joining me.
Hey, Michał, how are you? Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, good to see you too. And for the first time, we actually have a face-to-face conversation which is not going to be interrupted by any Liverpool fans, Arsenal fans, other disgruntled Man United fans. Just you, me, and our viewers and listeners. How does that sound?
Just us, the suffering souls of Man United fans.
Okay, you know what? Actually, because of the how the fixture plan pans out for Tuesday's games and Wednesday's games, probably there will not be a lot of time and chance to talk about how Man United is poor, which is actually a blessing. So whoever was coming up with those fixtures and those bouts scheduled for match week 27. Thank you. Arigato, as the Finnish say. If there are any Japanese listeners and viewers, let me know if I pronounced that correctly. So, what a day of fixtures we had, of ties, and actually unexpected results. Isn't that right, Viktor?
I don't know if it's unexpected. If you're talking about the Aston Villa game, to be completely honest with you, I expected them to lose, only because they've been playing a lot of games, and I thought eventually... they'll get tired, and that what happened today in the second half. You saw two different sides of Aston Villa. You had the first half when it was wide open, it could have gone either way, and then the second half they completely fell apart, and Crystal Palace just scored and finished the game with 4-1. But yeah, it was a big game for Aston Villa to stay in the top. Now they're still off, I would say, for a few points. Right. Still going for that top 4 finish. I assume that will be their goal, and have the best season, I guess, in the Champions League in a while this year.
Of course, obviously. I mean, well, you've just kickstarted the conversation about Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, and that was basically what we want to start with. We did have, I had some reservations as to the choice made by the networks broadcasting Premier League, that why on earth somebody would think that Crystal Palace Aston Villa was a good game to highlight the day. There was a far more important game of Brighton taking on Bournemouth, because that was the rivalry for the European positions and for for points, which are super important in the Premier League table. Then the fate decided to shut my mouth, because oh boy, was that a cracker. 4 goals scored by Crystal Palace. Aston Villa defense absolutely smashed, battered, whatever you want to call it. They basically fell apart. Not to mention that after 45 minutes, Emiliano Martinez needed to be substituted, probably because of an injury. And then, Robin Olsen took over, and that was a nightmare for him. But to be completely honest, the entire team just did not deliver at all today, did they?
Nothing really he can do. At some point, I felt like maybe Aston Villa with the subs coming in can kind of refresh the game, but nope, it was just all Crystal Palace. But we have to give them credit as well, because they picked up their form big time in the second half of the season. So this is like how many wins in a row they have. Like, I know they won the last game, but they lost at home at Everton. But before that, they beat United away. They won in the FA Cup, and they're climbing. So obviously now that they're safe, I would say, from relegation. At the beginning of the season, it was tough, but no issues with Crystal Palace now, I think.
Absolutely. They are on a roll. And, if somebody thought that a win of Crystal Palace's win against Manchester United was just a fluke, no, absolutely not. They are really on the roll. I mean, those last, those last results of Crystal Palace are pretty impressive, like 2-0 against Fulham. Well, just that loss against Everton with 2-1, super narrowly. They are through in the FA Cup. Things are looking pretty up for that side.
Yeah.
And as
they're
far
pretty
as
strong defensively as well,
Exactly.
to be honest. They're very
Yes.
compact, and you cannot create that many chances against them. So if you don't score the few chances they get, you're not going to win the game.
Exactly. Well, although according to the stats, there was it wasn't like a brilliant game by the three center backs, but it was a correct. Their presence and their performance was correct according to the stats. But then, as we know, stats love showing introducing a completely different picture than to what we actually saw. So many examples of that. And as far as Aston Villa goes, I think that they are glad that this series of endless games with Unai Emery having to rotate the squad over and over again, that this period is actually over. Because from what I can see, the very next game Aston Villa will have already in the Champions League against Club Brugge on March 4th.
So and then play on Friday, FA Cup. So this team literally, I feel like, plays most games than any Premier League right now in the moment.
Right.
So, very busy schedule.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, they will also have a FA Cup tie on the 28th of February, but still, they will just be begging for those couple days off just so the squad can recover, especially for Club Brugge, because that will be a very important match in Aston Villa's history. Round of 16 of Champions League. All hell is breaking loose, really.
Yeah, they were European champions 40 years ago, 45 years ago. So it's been a while.
Time to get that trophy at Munich is what you're saying?
I don't know.
That is a very good diplomatic answer. I'm sure Aston Villa fans love it. Okay, so just like that, with that victory of Crystal Palace, they are now 12th in the Premier League table with 36 points and two victories, two consecutive. And as far as Aston Villa goes, their loss means that they are now tied on points with Fulham. They won their game. We will discuss it just briefly later on. 42 points each, 1 point of... But they still have that 1 point of disadvantage towards Brighton and Bournemouth, which they sit respectively 8th and 7th. But those European positions are still up for grabs, really.
Yeah, definitely. They'll go for it. I think their main focus will be obviously to play in Europe again next year and go as far as they can in the Champions League.
Well, best of luck to them. And just like that, we move on to another game, which will be the showdown, which I thought would be the most important one of the day, but then the fate proved me wrong. But still, all of that aside, it was still a very entertaining game to watch. It was Brighton taking on Bournemouth, and in that game, that result was 2-1 on the side of the hosts of the Amex Stadium. Danny Welbeck and João Pedro scoring for Brighton, and Kluivert scoring that one contact goal, as we call it, in 61st minute.
What a goal that was. That was a brilliant goal. Yeah, this game, also I would say two different halves. In the first half, it was all Brighton, and then Bournemouth picked up the pace in the second half. They equalized the game, and then I thought they're actually going to get a winner, but then the legend, Danny Welbeck, just the moment he came on, and he just scored the winner. And yeah, that's a big win for Brighton for sure. They're back in the top four, I would say, race. Definitely back in the race for European football. But yeah, I think they're going to make a push for top four as well.
Yeah.
They don't have that many. They don't have European football, so that's one focus. They still have the FA Cup. But other than that, they can really have some break in between the games. Something that Aston Villa does not have.
Oh, well, this is how the fixture is planned, so we don't have really, they do not really have control over that. But you know what? Every single time I hear like this argument, and don't get me wrong, I still agree that European Cups create some sort of a burden for as far as stamina goes and the players go. But with that being said, I have a feeling that maybe not as much in the Premier League, but in other leagues in Europe, this argument of fatigue of players because of European Cups is so overused to the point that people basically have a meme that, oh my God, so okay, maybe it's better to play in the fourth tier of your domestic football. So just so, God forbid, that you have any European Cups. No one perceives this as opportunity anymore. Now all of a sudden it's a burden that you were in a sentence, you were forced to play in that Champions League. Like, what's up with that?
It's tough though, Michał. Come on, they play so much. They play so much. Even now, the Club World Cup for some teams, it's like you barely have like 2 weeks of rest. I mean, we also have 2 weeks of rest if you look at it that way. If you have a regular job, but for a football player, it's tough. It's tough. Your legs get tired, and after a while, you'll feel that. You can be fine the first few months, but it's catching up on you. So. That's why all these injuries happen as well. So that's another dangerous thing. A lot of ACL injuries.
Yeah, that is like a plague. And yeah, I'm just trying to be provocative with my questions, really, just to keep the emotions going wild. I want to go back to the performance of Bournemouth in that game. Yeah, of course, they lost narrowly. It's not like they were playing super bad in that game as well. But Brighton, of course, deservedly won that game. I want to highlight the performance of Justin Kluivert. Really, I mean, the way how he was playing, I am in awe with this guy. Really, I mean, how he is holding up not only the midfield, but more specifically how fast he is in the attacks. This is, for me, Justin Kluivert is the personification of what the modern football is supposed to be. It's that Pep Guardiola saying that today's football is no longer positional. It's about fire. It's about sprint. It's about speed. It's about effectiveness. And it's about counter-attacking. Justin Kluivert should be positioned there in the dictionary if somebody wants to look up nowadays modern style of football to see what it means.
Huge improvement. Huge improvement from last year. If you look at his, obviously the pace was always there, but his consistency picked up. He's scoring goals now, so it's a completely different player. But in terms of like both teams, Bournemouth and Brighton, they're both the same. They have the same inconsistency. They will get few wins, and just when you thought, okay, they're gonna get to a really good spot, they'll lose a game, and it goes like in a circle. So, but yeah, this was a good win for Brighton for sure. Put them closer to top 4, and then they're going to push for that for sure.
And thanks to the result that Brighton had, just like you said, their position in the Premier League table is much better right now. Oh, of course they're of course in the fight for the European for the European positions that will just grant them the European Cups next season. But this fight is really open. I mean, just that victory only caused Brighton to tie themselves in points with Bournemouth. Just 1 point of they just need to get that one more point, and all of a sudden they will be tied with Newcastle and Man City. Yes, of course. Those teams. Newcastle, Man City, they still have that one additional game to play, and we're going to be discussing that very shortly. But looking at how the table is panned out right now, what are the chances of Bournemouth playing in Champions League?
My prediction, they'll fall short, but I also don't think Nottingham Forest will finish in top 4. My thing is, I have a feeling that Newcastle's going to make top 4. Unpopular opinion. Okay. I think that Newcastle's going to pick up the 4th place, and Chelsea, with all the games coming up in Conference League, they'll drop some points when it matters, I think. And because I think they're going to go far in that competition, and you have a lot of extra games that literally gives you another 2, 4, 6, 7 more games to play.
Exactly. So, European Cups, like
if they go to the final. That will be the 7 game.
Yeah. If they reach Wrocław, then maybe, that will easily just play a very important role. Again, stamina, fatigue. What's more important? Is it the league? Is it the Conference League? Or it could just be that one upset that once Legia Warsaw defeats Molde in the round of 16 in the quarterfinal, they meet against Chelsea, and we'll have something to talk about. That's going to be amazing. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And until that time, I recommend to not only Legia players, not to Chelsea players, but to all of the players of the Premier League to check out our sponsor, which is Bioniq. And who are they? Well, here's the ad to tell you something more about them.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Exactly so. Thank you. We've heard that already. So, yeah, get what your body needs. Use the code which we heard in the ad, which is GSPN 2025, to get your discount for those supplements. Thank you, Bioniq, for sponsoring us, because without our sponsors we wouldn't be able to do this. So just like that, we move on to the games which will happen on Wednesday. You guys are listening into this on Wednesday, so let's just say that what's going to happen today. So today we've got, of course, another day packed with Premier League action. We picked 3 games that we wanted to talk about because I think they are the most important, and let's start with Liverpool Newcastle. Victor, what is your prediction to what's going to happen in Anfield?
Oh, tough one. Newcastle is dangerous only because Isak always finds that room that he needs. But I think Liverpool's going to take the win, but it's not going to be as easy as people think it is, especially if Newcastle scores first. And also, this is like a preview for the Liga Cup final. So they have to see how they're going to play against each other. And then based off of that performance, then you have your tactics for the final. So, but yeah, I expect Liverpool to win, even though they'll play with way less pressure than before, because now the difference with Arsenal is even bigger. So, but yeah, I expect a 2-1 win for Liverpool.
Yep, I would agree with that. 11 points clear in the Premier League table. That is a super comfortable advantage to have, with just, I believe, 11 or 12 games left to play, if I remember correctly.
And
11.
they have 7 of those 11 at home. So that is a huge difference for Liverpool. I think it's pretty much done.
I think so too. Yeah, but who knows? Maybe Aston will pull off the impossible, although they already had that task last season. And how did it work out? They just forgot to score. They forgot to score
the usual
points. Yeah.
Arsenal.
Oh, God.
Unfortunately.
Well, just to go back to Newcastle here for a moment, just a couple of trivia for you. Newcastle have won just 1 of the last 27 Premier League games against sides starting the day top of the table. 8 draws, 18 defeats, beating Chelsea 2-1 in December 2014 under Alan Pardew. They've never won away from home against the team top of the Premier League table in 20 attempts. 5 draws, 15 losses. Trivia doesn't work in Newcastle's favor, that's for sure.
Tough.
That really is tough. But also, Newcastle have won both of the last 2 evening 7 p.m. or later kickoffs in the Premier League. 2-0 against Man United, 3-0 against Wolves, as many as they had in their previous 13 prior. So, 3 draws, 8 defeats. So, maybe, just maybe. Well, Man United, Wolves, those are basically relegation teams. Let's get to it. Oh, God. And I promised that I wouldn't that I wouldn't say anything bad about Man United today. It's just tough, man.
If Man United doesn't win today against Ipswich, then that is alarm should be on already.
Yeah,
for Amorim. Obviously, you want to give him the time, and you want to give him his own players to bring in the summer, clean up whoever he's not happy with. But even with these players, you should be winning some of the games and not being 15th. So,
yeah, exactly. And well, then, if that really happens, and all of those redundancies announced lately about like, I don't know, 44 or 45% of redundancies made as some plan to restructure the club. Wow, that will just look super cruel, because the players did not deliver, and all of a sudden all of those guys working for the club all of a sudden will be laid off because they are the root of the problem. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
but we were talking. Yeah,
but what a story would it be?
Yeah,
what a story would it be if Man United wins Europa League, get Champions League, get the extra money, offload whoever you're not happy with, and then you build from there. So We can still have a better season than Arsenal or Chelsea or Man City. So we'll see. We suck, but we have some hope.
Yeah, and that game is going to happen. We will see. We'll see what will be unveiled, what kind of Manchester United team we will get, and what kind of Ipswich opposition it will be. But let's just go back for just 1 second to Liverpool Newcastle. Of course, in last episodes, I forgot to mention how Mohamed Salah is a giant of European football, not only English football. Yeah. So Salah became the first player in Premier League history to score and assist in both matches against the reigning champions in a season. Not to mention, he is the assist king. He's already matched Messi in terms of in terms of scoring, like him scoring and assisting in 11 Premier League matches this season, the most by a player in a single season in one of Europe's big 5 leagues since Leo Messi did it with Barcelona in season 2014-15. And now the question is, will Mohamed Salah get Ballon d'Or?
I think he will. I think he will. And that is mainly because 2025, there is no World Cup, there is no Euro. So usually if it's a year of a World Cup or a Euro, if someone wins that and have like a good season, you would give that usually to that player. But there's no such a big event in the summer like that. So if Liverpool wins the title in England and he keeps having these numbers, I have zero doubt that he will get the Ballon d'Or. And it will be totally deserved.
Deservedly so. Yeah. I just hope that they will not cancel the entire contest like they did in 2020.
You cannot let that go, Michał.
No, and I will not. I will freaking not.
Tell the people why.
Why?
Not everyone knows.
Let me tell you why. Because Robert Lewandowski had the best season of his life. Yes, I'm going to be complaining about it, but okay, let's just move on. Liverpool, Newcastle, we talk about this. Okay, let's just have some brief mention on what's at stake for Newcastle team in this game.
Yeah, it's a big game for Newcastle. They need to get something out of this game to keep that top 4 hopes, and then it's a big game. In Liverpool, on the other hand, they don't have another game until next Wednesday, so this is gonna be in the back of their heads. Like, we need to push ourselves to the max. Our next game is in a week, so there will be plenty of time to get our energy back and kind of rest. So we need to give everything we have for this game.
Exactly. Liverpool's form in 5 games, 3 victories and 2 draws. 1 draw in the Merseyside derby, 2-2 against Everton, and a 2 goals each draw against Aston Villa. That also was a tough game for Arne Slot's side, but all of those things considered, Liverpool, of course, are the favourites. And as far as Newcastle goes, in 5 games, 3 defeats. 1 against Bournemouth, another one against Fulham, and against Manchester City. That was a masterpiece of Omar Mamouche, of course, as we remember it clearly. So that's Liverpool-Newcastle, the preview of the Carabao Cup final, as we've already discussed that. Let's move on to the highlight of all of those fixture lists for today, and that will be Tottenham Hotspur facing Manchester City. And I feel in this game, Viktor, Pep Guardiola has got something to prove.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they need to pick up their form if they're going to finish top 4. They're aware that they can't win the league this year. They're out of the Champions League. They literally have, just the FA Cup to play for. So that's pretty much it. So they have to get a successful season for them would be finishing 3rd and then get the FA Cup. And on the other hand, you have Tottenham, because they still have Europa League, which are probably the main favorites along with Man United, but they still want to finish as high as they can. And I feel like Tottenham is literally the same story as Man United. You have nothing to play in the Premier League, but you have the Europa League, it can change your season. Winning that's one big trophy, and then you get the Champions League next year. So, yeah.
Well, but with that being said, if Ruben Amorim fails to win Europa League with Manchester United, his job will not be super endangered. But with Ange Postecoglou fails to win Europa League on top of their dismal performance in the Premier League, I think that Ange Postecoglou might be the favorite in betting companies to get sacked first.
I hope not. I love the guy.
Well, yeah.
Honestly, he's straight to the point guy. No BS. Yeah, I like Angie. But what can you do? It's the same story with Tottenham. So I don't live in England. I don't know how the club is and why everyone has the same story. Conte, Mourinho, everyone that was there, it was the same story. So I don't know what's going on in the background of that club, but yeah,
I'm sure. I'm sure Tottenham fans are screaming, "Levy!" right in your face on the screen.
But how much can Levi have to do with that? I mean, yeah, but I don't know.
Just a little bit of trivia ahead of that game. Tottenham have won 3 league games in a row for the first time since December 2023. It's as many victories as they had managed in their previous 15 attempts, 2 draws and 10 losses. They have scored in 11 successive Premier League home matches. Their only game without scoring in 20 competitive fixtures at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this season came against Arsenal in September. There you go. Son Heung-min, he needs to provide just 1 more assist to match his highest tally of 10 in the Premier League season. However, 8 of Son's past 9 goals involvement have come away from home. Yeah, we could just have just another 30-minute podcast on how home support no longer counts in nowadays football, or this is at least what stats prove. And as far as Manchester City goes, they have lost 14 of their last 27 matches in all competitions. An Erling Haaland goal at Spurs would mean he scored 10 at home and 10 away in 3 Premier League seasons, a feat only achieved by Harry Kane. Haaland has scored 6 goals in 5 Premier League games in London this season. A lot of histories, a lot of angles, as sports journalists would say. The only thing that we have to do is just to sit back, relax, and watch. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that pretty much sums it up for Tottenham Manchester City, unless you want to add something.
No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's move on to a third game that we would like to highlight, which is another top-tier bout in the Premier League between Nottingham Forest and Arsenal. With Arsenal, we've already touched on it a little bit, how they are struggling to pick up points, and especially in the games that matter. And just like we said, that is the same story with Tottenham not managing to win. It's the same story with Arsenal. Well, there was this joke under Arsene Wenger that they always finish 4th. Now, perhaps we should start a joke with Arsenal always finishing 2nd. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe in 5 years there will be a different story. Then they'll finish 1st for once for a long time.
That would be such a celebration. I can just see Arsene Wenger and Thierry Henry in some interview after the final game of the season, just in joyous celebrations, and some fans just mocking them, like, "Yeah, Henry, you did that, okay, but you, Wenger, oh, come on. Now we got Arteta. Arteta ball is the best."
I was so mad last year. Last year I had a parlay that Arsenal's going to win the league and Haaland's going to be top goal scorer. And you probably remember that Son miss against Tottenham in the 37th round when he was 1-on-1. If he only scored that, Arsenal would have been champions. So tough one for me.
That game. Yeah.
Tough one for me. I would have got $1,000.
Oh, come on. Yeah, and I remember that derby because like everyone was so hyped about it, and I commented that game, and that Son's miss on 1-on-1. I believe I said something in the lines of that miss might have just handed Manchester City the championship.
Yeah, and it did.
And it did.
Yeah.
And it did. Oh, you know what? I kind of wish for that kind of game again. It was like so exciting. I was just screaming all around the house, commenting that game. And and it came to the point when the people with whom I was living in the house, they just wanted me to shut up because I was just too loud. But hey, I was commenting. What can I do? Okay, so back to the case at hand. Nottingham Forest. I have a feeling that they do not have as much to prove as Manchester City, because they're overachievers. So whatever position they will finish, even if they get Europa League next season, that will still be a huge success for Nuno Espirito Santo, right?
At this point, like if it was like 15 games into the season and this was the standings, I would have agreed with you. But now going like 27 games into the season and they're in 3rd, I think their goal is definitely to finish top 4. And they should be the goal. But I feel like they are slowly falling apart and they're very inconsistent. And tomorrow's game is huge for them, especially how much they fell apart against Newcastle. And then they came back. But on the other hand, you have Arsenal, who without Saka and now Havertz, the last 2 games, they don't look dangerous at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like they look terrible. So I can totally see this game going either way. So we'll see. We'll see how Arsenal's gonna come back after that West Ham loss, which is a big loss for them. Obviously, we know the rivalry they have with West Ham. So
well,
they'll have to come back, and
yeah.
they need a win. They need a win for sure.
Absolutely need a win. And to be honest, like in that last game of Arsenal, I didn't even want to check the social media after that red card shown to Miles Lewis-Skelly, because I just knew that there would be a huge uproar and discussion as to how VAR is robbing Arsenal. But in that case, Lewis-Skelly actually deserved to be sent off.
100% red card.
Yeah.
If you see where Raya was, he was literally 30 yards out of his goal. Like if that foul didn't happen, he would have conceded a goal. So yeah, I was shocked the ref didn't see it at the beginning and just give it a red card straight. So but yeah, still, even before that red card, Arsenal did not create anything. There was nothing. It was just possession. There's no chances, no nothing.
Guys, just in case you wonder why Viktor is now sending you that quite a interesting gaze, that's because his camera froze. So no need to be alarmed. We're still going. It's all fine. But you're just gonna have to stick with that gaze. Oh, definitely. Oh, you're talking something about Arsenal? You're talking about $1,000? Okay.
My camera froze the moment we mentioned Arsenal.
You say second best. Your camera is always second best. What is going on? Oh, God. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Come on. You have to understand a Man United fan here. We have so much to suffer that when we just, throw some irony towards some other teams, that's not because we hate them. That's because we hate ourselves. Oh, God. Let's just move on. 17-year-old Ethan Nwaneri scored his first ever Premier League goal in Arsenal's 3-0 over Nottingham Forest in the reverse fixture. The only player to score home and away goals against an opponent before turning 18 in a single Premier League campaign is... Viktor, your thoughts?
Say it again. I lost you for a second.
Oh,
can you repeat it one more time?
So basically, who is the player who scored home and away goals against an opponent, the same opponent, before turning 18 years old in a single Premier League campaign is...
Wayne Rooney?
You nailed it. Exactly. That's correct. Yes, beautiful. Wayne Rooney against Arsenal in the season 2002-2003. And a lot of eyes will be on that 17-year-old because if he somehow manages to pull off a great performance against Nottingham Forest, he will just be a nominal winger if he isn't already because of the injuries. But then he could actually be the one to be the next Bukayo Saka, if somebody could call him. So
yeah, his movement and control of the ball, how close he keeps the ball to his feet, it's phenomenal for that age. So yeah, someone to look for in the future for sure.
Yeah, that one is a keeper, and I think Mikel Arteta will be fighting for him like a lion would really, for that kind of talent. So that would wrap up the highlighting of those very important games. Let's take an ad break, and then we will discuss briefly the remaining ties in that match week.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out as the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone, AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the description to learn more about Zencastr.
Yep, and thank you so much. Yes, Louis, we heard it already. Sorry, apologies for those technical difficulties. So, Zencastr, thank you again for allowing us to use this platform to produce the content for our viewers and listeners. GSPN Global Sports Podcasting Network, every club, every day in various languages, even if you prefer to hear about Premier League in Hindi or in Spanish, it's right there for you. So just go ahead and check out GSPN. And just like that, we have arrived to discussing briefly the remaining games for Wednesday. Just like we said, Manchester United taking on Ipswich. I think we've already touched on that if Ipswich wins that game, then there was going to be hell to pay, as I heard many times in American language. American, I'm saying American on purpose there. And we also have a game of Brentford taking on Everton. That should be. What do you think? Should that be an easy game for Everton, or will Brentford put up a fight?
I don't know. Brentford is in a good form as well, and they've been playing pretty well. The way they beat Leicester away, the way they beat West Ham, they score a lot of goals. And Everton now, since Sean Dyche is gone, under Moyes, they play offensive football. So it's going to be a pretty open game, I think. It can go either way. I wouldn't say there are any favorites in that game.
Absolutely. So that will be another interesting game to follow. Of course, maybe not as interesting as those that we highlighted. But then again, you never know. We thought that Brighton Bournemouth would be the most interesting, and then Crystal Palace arrived. So I really do not want to make any predictions heading to upcoming fixtures as far as Premier League goes. Really,
2-1 Brentford for me.
2-1 Brentford. Okay,
Yeah.
We have that recorded, guys. In case that was a great suggestion that any viewer or listener would take to the bank or take to the betting company, we take no responsibility for any of the predictions we make. That's Brentford Everton for you. And then the remaining game which we haven't talked about is West Ham Leicester. Here, both teams, again, having something to prove. But with that being said, Leicester being in the relegation mood, unfortunately, they're not going to be a big favorite against West Ham. Yes, West Ham, they do have their own problems. But with after all is said and done, I think that's just another W for West Ham.
Yeah, I mean, Leicester, the same way, pretty much like Southampton, they just fall apart, and we saw that against the game with Brentford. So they created a few chances at the beginning, fell apart, conceded 1-2 goals, and then it's game over after that. So, yeah, I mean, the bottom three, I think those three, unfortunately, are going to go back to the championship. But again, West Ham is not a team that also have any consistency. They beat the big teams, and then they lose to small teams like this. So we'll see. I actually don't think West Ham is going to win this game that easy. Even coming after a win against Arsenal like that, they're still going to do something stupid, I have a feeling.
And
I hope they do, because Ruud van Nistelrooy is the coach of Leicester, so...
Exactly.
And me and you love Ruud, so come on,
Fingers crossed. Hell yeah. Go on there, you. So with that being said, we've reached the end of our episode there. Victor, thank you so much for joining me. And, let's do it again sometime.
Thank you, Michał. Looking forward to the next one.
Exactly. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, because the more you're out there, the more excited we are to make more content here at Global Sports Podcast Network, daily English Premier League. And tune in tomorrow, because tomorrow we will be discussing all of those important games which we already talked about. Will Tottenham pull a surprise win against Manchester City? Will Liverpool continue to dominate in Premier League? What will happen in those other games? We'll see. Victor from Chicago, Michał Czarniecki from California. Thank you, and see you, and we'll hear you in the next one.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.